From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome to the National Book Festival. My name is Nora Krug and I am a Book World editor, thank you, at the Washington Post, which is a charter sponsor of the festival that is now in its 15th year. I have a cool job that I get to introduce some of my own children's favorite authors, and today I'm very excited to introduce Jon Scieszka, the author of many, many books. It's really hard to know where to start with him, but I know my kids always loved the Trucktown series when they were a little younger, and the Stinky Cheese Man and other stupid tales, and my personal favorite is the true story of the Three Little Pigs, which I think is a great. So he was also our country's first ambassador for young people's literature, and his books have sold millions of copies, as I'm sure you know. His new novel is Frank Einstein and the BrainTurbo. It's the third book in the Frank Einstein series from Scieszka and Brian Biggs, who's his illustrator on this book. As many of you know, these books are full of wild science-related adventures and wacky experiments. And the new book focuses on the human body. And Frank Einstein and his friend Watson and Clink create BrainTurbo to power boost the human body and help their baseball pitching pal make the team. The problem is that their invention is stolen and might be used to take over the world. I hope I haven't given too much away because he's going to tell you about that and whatever else you'd like to hear about his work. So please welcome Jon Scieszka.
Wow. Thanks, guys. And actually, you've done the most difficult thing already, which is how to pronounce my name. I've been speaking to kids, and I tell them, I remember, like, this is a terrible time of the year for me. It's like when you go back to school, which I wasn't too crazy about, because my birthday is also like September 8th. And it was this whole terrible thing of, like, I would go back to school, and I would be in the classroom, and the new teacher would say to me, she'd be calling the roll, and she'd go, Tommy Smith, Becky Schwartz, Jon Scieszka. I'd go like, oh man. Or the teacher would say, Jon Scieszka. Or my favorite would be if the teacher would just look and go, John, I have no idea. So I got to learn to just raise my hand after Schwartz. I would just go, here, that's me, Jon Scieszka. So everyone try Scieszka. Oh, that's perfect. It's easy if you speak Polish, because it's actually very close to a Polish word. Both of my dad's parents came over from Poland, and they brought their name with them. So in Poland, it's very easy. It means like a little path through the woods. So in Poland, I think I would be just like John Little Path. And here I'm Jon Scieszka. Oh, but today I wanted to talk to you about like just random stuff. Old books, new books, what it's like to be a writer. And I'll give you a chance to ask questions, because I love questions. I always get some great ones. Like, where do you get your ideas? How long does it take to write a book? How much money do you make? How old are you? What happened to your hair? Why are you so incredibly good looking? I gotta learn how to do that. And I love to answer all those questions because one place I get a lot of my ideas from is I grew up with 5 brothers. All the moms just gasped involuntarily there. I heard that. No sisters. We all fit in 10 years. More groans. And we loved to wrestle all the time. Like, we would just smash into each other. We wrestled for everything. We wrestled to see like who would get the first piece of toast in the morning. We would wrestle to see who got in the car first. We would wrestle to see who got to go to the bathroom. It just seemed like the thing to do. It was to wrestle. I just sort of learned about storytelling there because that was my defense. Like Jim could talk really fast, he was the older brother, but I could actually make a joke and just make people laugh, and then I would grab the last piece of chicken and then eat it as fast as I could. And I was faster than the little guys. But I actually have a whole bunch of those stories. I've collected them in what I like to call my memoir. It's called Knucklehead. Oh, nice. We have some Knucklehead fans. And it's just all these stories, which are a little bit inappropriate. Are you guys okay with that? Yes, she said very firmly. Maybe. Okay, so don't listen to some of the parts, because one of the stories in there is about my brother Jim and I had a bedroom in the basement in Michigan. And we had an electric heater, because it gets kind of cold there. And you know how they get all orange when they heat up? Well, Jim and I were looking at it, and we were like, hey, this looks like a campfire. We should put it out like we put out campfires. So, yes, we peed on it. Or, as my mom, the nurse, likes to say, urinated on it correctly. But that was a terrible idea. Don't do that. I don't know why we thought that was a good idea. Well, first it started smoking and sparking and making weird noises, so we unplugged it. But the worst thing was the smell. It just smelled terrible. No, I can't say it again, just one time. How did we get down this road? I thought we were going to talk about science. Man, okay, let's get back to science. So, actually, all right, I've got more peeing stories. Do you want to hear more of those? Well, there was one great one, like we had so many brothers, like Jim, John, Tom, Greg, Brian, and Jeff. I forgot one of them. He's the mean one, though. He's the weird one. We don't like him. What? So it was kind of hard to corral us all together, like get us in the car. So what we would do is my mom would get first the little guys dressed, Brian and Jeff, they were the smallest, and then she would put them in the car, lock it, and then Jim and I would guard it so they wouldn't get out. And then she had to go find Tom and Greg, get them dressed, put them in the car, and then once everybody was in the car, then we were ready to go. But somebody always had to go to the bathroom. It was usually Greg. He'd go like, I have to pee. And my mom would say, no, we don't say pee, we say urinate. But you have to do that, so let's go. And since it would take a long time, like for one person to go and come back, and one person to go and come back, and one person to go and come back, sometimes it would go like 2 at once, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6 guys all at once. Just because it was possible, too. So one time we were doing that, and Jim and I realized like it was kind of like crossing swords, like sword fighting. And then we just started sword fighting, and then Greg yelled out, Mom, Jim and John peed on me. And my mom yelled back, no, they urinated on you. All right, we got to stop telling pee stories. Oh, wait, I do have another one, though. It's about how I learned to handwrite instead of print. It's very painful to print Scieszka in the snow. But how did we get here? Oh, the latest book is Frank Einstein, quickly. As I was a little kid, I grew up loving both stories and science. Because when I was little, I was reading books like Green Eggs and Ham, or Go Dog Go. Have you ever read that one? That was great, because in school, I was learning to read by listening to stories that weren't so great, like Dick and Jane. Some people probably remember that. Those were terrible, because you would struggle to read those things and go like, Dick said, ha, 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 look at Spot. And then I go like, that's not funny. Why is he laughing? And why is he laughing like that? That's terrible. But then I would read Go Dog Go, and I would say, man, that's more like our house. Because there were little crazy dogs driving around in cars, and then they have a party in a tree. And I think they urinate on each other in that book, too. Pretty sure. Well, they smell each other because they're dogs, I'm pretty sure. Exactly. That's how dogs say hello. this has gone spiraled out of control. Who started this? Oh, I did. I'm sorry. You're right. So as I was saying, I was a very studious child. I was actually very quiet in school. Somebody laughed at me when I told them that the other day. But I was like an early birthday kid, so I was kind of younger. Like I said, it's my birthday soon. In case anyone bought a present, that'd be great, because it's the 8th, September 8th. And I usually get socks and pencils and like back to school gifts, which is terrible. But as a kid, I loved science too. And I loved just studying how things worked. And then my mom said, yeah, you know what, you could be a doctor. That's a great job. You get a lot of money and you don't have to do anything. Which I didn't think about until later, and I thought, oh yeah, it's because she's a nurse. That's where that came from. That's nurses' idea of what doctors do. But at the time, it seemed like a great idea to me. Do nothing, get paid a lot? Yes, I'm in. In fact, I studied science all through college. I was actually pre-med until dissection class, which is creepier than peeing stories. We started like cutting things up. Yeah, like the first week it was worms, which wasn't bad because they're a little gross, but it's a good way to study how worms work. Exactly. And then the next we did frogs to test them to see how they move. Then you see the heart, exactly. That is disgusting. No, you know what gets worse? Then we had to do baby sharks. And then the next week we dissected baby pigs. And then the most disgusting thing was the next week when the teacher came in with a cookie tray. But she didn't have cookies on it. It was a whole cookie tray full of cow eyeballs. That's when I said, all right, this is not for me. The other thing that happened is I met a woman who then became my wife who said, and she's a very smart woman, she said, John, you would make a terrible doctor. I said, what are you talking about? I love science. She said, yeah, number one, you hate sick people, and two, you don't like hospitals, so you'll be great. I went, oh, I hadn't thought of that. So I ended up going to writing school. I went to New York City and studied to be a writer, and when I got out with my master's in fiction writing, then I painted apartments. Because that's about what you can do with an MFA in fiction writing. And I just kept writing stories and painting, and then I started teaching elementary school because I wanted a job that wasn't so smelly. And I started teaching first grade because first graders are crazy. And that's when I realized, oh, this is my audience. They're much smaller than I ever thought, but just as insane. And perfect for kind of the postmodern humor that I love. So I was writing stories like the Stinky Cheese Tales, and I would send them out to publishers. Yeah, that was me. Oh, good, I'm glad you liked that. Where were you like 25 years ago? Yeah, so I would send the stories out, and then I would get letters back that would say, Dear Mr. Skazukabobble, please don't ever send us anything again. It's like, wow, because they thought it was too weird. But I had taught kids. I knew kids were weirder than that. So I just kept sending stuff out. And then Three Pigs was the first book that was published. Oh, thank you. Which has now somehow been 25 years, which hardly seems possible. Oh, and in fact, when I was speaking at a school, and I told the group that, and a little third grade girl raised her hand, and she went, when was that first book? I said, oh, 1989. And she looked, and she didn't even fake it. She just went like, oh. Back in the 1900s? I was like, yeah, actually, I guess it was back in the 1900s. Oh, now I feel old. It scars me to this day, the 1900s. Back when phones used to go in circles. Were cut on the wall and you couldn't take them off the wall. Oh, never, well, let's not go down that road either. So then Three Pigs was great that it was a success because then I could take off and just write. And my experience of being a teacher for 10 years, I taught 1st through 8th grade, kind of hopping around. and just kind of learned like what great story listeners kids are and how they can handle those weird postmodern concepts that I loved. Like I would tell my second graders Kafka stories because that's what I like to read. So I said, imagine if you grew up, like you woke up one morning and you were a bug. And they were like, that could happen. That could totally happen. Like, yes. So forget about like willing suspension of disbelief. It's like you have to kind of bring them back a little bit. Like, no, it probably couldn't happen, but just mentally, maybe, yeah. So I realized like I could use all of those techniques of my favorite authors, like Thomas Pynchon, John Barth, Ionesco, just like the weirdest writers, but to present it in the form of a picture book. And to manipulate things, to take tales and just change them. My daughter's favorite story was The Gingerbread Man. Have you guys ever read that? That's a weird story, though, don't you think, man? They're like running around in circles. Everyone wants to eat the guy. But I thought, what would happen if they ran out of gingerbread and then made the guy out of really bad-smelling cheese? It's just one thing that changes, but it changes everything. Then nobody's chasing him. And I actually took just a bunch of techniques from my other favorite book, Tristram Shandy, by Lawrence Stern, which is a really old, weird book, but it uses all those subverting narrative techniques. And that's why I love writing for this audience, because you kind of bring this to them. So Frank Einstein is the latest thing. He's a genius. He's a 10-year-old guy who loves science too, and he loves to invent things. So what he does is he invents 2 robots. He brings them to life, Clink and Clank. So Clink is a very smart one, and then Clank, and not so much. But Clank loves to hug people. He also knows some good jokes, which drives Clink crazy, because Clank will say, hey, you want to hear a joke? And Clink says, no, it will make my head blow up. And then Clank says, it's a very funny joke. And Clink says, no, I do not want to hear your joke. It's a very, very funny joke. No. Okay. Knock, knock. No. Knock, knock. No, I'm not going to say anything. Knock, knock. No, because I'll just say who's there, and then you'll say something strange. I'll say something, and then you'll laugh, and then my head will blow up. Okay. Knock, knock. Oh, all right. Who is there? Boo. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo, you big crybaby. You do not have to cry about it. Ha, 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 ha. And then Clink goes, ha, 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 ha. Well, so luckily, though, Clink head blows up, but he puts it back together because he's very smart, and he knows how to put his head back together. And then the guys always try to invent something new. So Frank gets the help of his robots, but there's a bad guy in this book. He's a little bit frightening, and he's loosely based on a historical character. He is T. Edison, Thomas Edison, evil boy genius, who steals other people's inventions and takes credit for them. Which I thought was a great little scientific dig. And then, but the scariest character in the book is T. Edison's assistant, Mr. Chimp, who actually is a chimpanzee, who escaped from a product testing laboratory. They were putting shampoos and stuff in his eyes, and he said, I got to get out of here. So he taught himself American Sign Language. And now he speaks in the book in American Sign Language. Or if you're in Germany, in German Sign Language, which I did not know even existed until we sold German rights to the book. And my illustrator said, I'm not doing all those things over again. But I kind of love that I never know what Mr. Chimp is going to do because he's so smart, but he's not telling what he's doing. And he's as strong as a chimpanzee, which is strong enough to like lift up 3 people and bite your face off. Oh yeah, you're right, he is a chimpanzee. Good thinking. So what happens is they finally make an invention. In book 3, they're trying to help their friend who's a pitcher. Is anybody here a baseball pitcher? Oh, excellent. Perfect. So what these guys invent is they try to study the human body to see like how they can improve it so their friend Jane Goodall can pitch faster. Which I kind of love that I based her on Monet Davis, the Little League pitcher, and I got to meet her last year and she was just the coolest kid and I thought, oh man, I need to just steal you as a character and call you Jane Goodall. So they try to make her pitch better. They think, well, maybe we can improve the circulatory system. Maybe we could make nerves better. Maybe we could make muscles bigger. Because the illustrations also have a ton of real science and diagrams that I put in here that kind of just sneaks real information in. Like in this book, the guys find out like the biggest muscle in your body. Do you guys know what that is? Yes, the gluteus maximus, also known as your butt muscle. They decide they better not mess with that though. So I won't tell you, but they figure out how to BrainTurbo boost. Ooh. And then in the second book, they're working on energy and they learn how to make an electro finger and just put electricity everywhere, sort of like a man named Tesla did. And then I've actually done the slightly grandiose idea of I'm going to have all 6 books cover all of science. That was my original idea. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I would just breeze through it with my pre-med chem memory. But no, apparently not. And it's incredibly difficult to remember, or to even research, what electricity is, what magnetism is. It's kind of cool, though, to learn about all that stuff. So the first book is all about matter. The second book's energy. The third book's the human body. Right now I'm working on all life, which is easy. Wow. Darwin for kids is what I'm calling it. Evolution, that should be fun. Earth, and then the last one is the universe. Possibly multiple universes. And then yesterday a little kid asked me, he said, are you going to do another Frank Einstein book, maybe number 7? I said, I don't know what that would be. And this serious little guy looked at me and he said, the void. And I was like, what? Yet perfect. And so easy to write. I think I'm going to steal that idea and just make a book with nothing in it. I don't know if it should be like blank white pages or blank black pages. I'm not sure. Do you think black or white? Black, white. Okay, I'll think about it. Should it have a cover or no? We don't know. Jeez. Wow. So this is book 3. There's 3 of them out now. Frank Einstein and the antimatter motor. Frank Einstein and the electro finger. And the most recent one is Frank Einstein and the BrainTurbo. So if you read all 6 books, you are guaranteed to become a genius. Or your money back from Abrams, I believe, or Amulet Books. It's kind of, the printing's a little smudged. I'm not sure. Call them if it doesn't work out. Don't call me. Yes, you can be a genius. And you know what's been so much fun, too, is I ask kids what they're working on, and there's such amazing scientists out there. And the idea of the whole series is actually to promote the real idea of science, which is not that we know everything. It's just that actually you need to look into things. You need to question things. You should be asking that question, is that real? Can we duplicate that experiment? And that runs for everything. We need scientifically literate kids. That's our future. Is there climate change? Can we just say no? Or should we maybe examine it and see yes or no? Should we use real science? So I kind of love that I get to sneak all that in there along with the gluteus maximus. I want to see how you do gluteus maximus. I got to learn how to sign that. I think that would be excellent. Whoa, well, thank you so much for coming today, guys. I'm going to be signing books down in the crazy signing area. Now you guys know way more about Jon Scieszka than you ever needed, like how to pronounce his name and all that other stuff we won't talk about. One more peeing story? I wish I could, but I think we've just run out of time. Woo! All right, thanks, guys.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.